Folks, welcome back, mere mortals out there. This is Juan, Karen. This is the Mere Mortals podcast, and today
Certainly is.
we are musing. That is where we look back at the week that was, learnings, thoughts, the journey. We talk about it all, and we're going to begin it straight in with a mere mortal moment.
Good.
Mine's going to be an easy one. You like this one? I found my joy for summer, having cold showers and the euphoric feeling of getting cold. So it's the interesting thing of I'm going through my 21 days of no complaining, and the other day I just had the ability to jump in the shower after a little workout and obviously walking back home, and it was warm, and you know that feeling of just having straight cold showers. Now I'm not even, so obviously at that point awesome, but just the other day in the morning I wake up straight in the shower, cold shower turned on straight away, and I don't even have to worry. You know, sometimes you have the trepidation of cold.
It's not hard.
It's not hard with this weather. So, but it is my little joy of summer looking at it. So, it's just a small one. That's what I'm going to say now. When it's warm, I'm going to go, good, cold shower time.
Nice. All right. I'll talk more about that soon.
Good.
And you thought Alex Jones spread misinformation. The king culprit of fake news is none other than a mere mortal.
Yeah.
Why are we talking about this? Well, we need to call each other out. And
yes.
I was dead set. I was so enjoying it because I was like, yes, I'm going to call one out on this bullshit that he said in the latest meetings.
Yeah.
And then did a bit more research on another thing I said I'd look up, and I went, no, I also talked
gotta
a
call
bit of
yourself out,
bullshit.
yeah.
So who should we start with? Your bullshit or mine?
Man, I think both. Just go both at the same time.
So this is related to latest meanderings, which was... was it latest?
Whenever it was.
Sorry, it was the one before the last one. So,
yes.
121.
Jeez, yeah.
121.
But essentially, there was two things. What were the two things? One was the baking soda.
The baking soda.
And two, it was the
hand sanitizer.
Yep.
So the baking soda, I'll explain why you were wrong. So it was sort of close. I was pretty close to it. I just wasn't firm in my convictions, which was baking soda does not clog your pores. And in fact, it actually tends to do the other thing. And this was just a bit of research across general sites saying what it does and what it doesn't do.
Yep.
So it does actually have some antibacterial properties. And I think the main reason you did identify that it can give you skin rashes and whatnot, but I think that's more because it dries out the skin, not clogging the pores. So all hail Kyron.
Yeah.
He's got it right. Don't hail Kyron though for his research into hand sanitizers. I just had this impression that it was potentially doing bad things to your microbiome or something, and I've read a site that said that, but it was just so vague that it pinged off the bullshit detector in me, just saying like, okay, this has no solid information here. So from what I could tell, I was wrong about hand sanitizers. There is no long-term effects that I can really see from you washing your hands fairly regularly with it. Obviously not overdoing it. If you're rubbing your hands so much that you're bleeding and your skin's peeling off, well, that's something else.
Yeah, it's the interesting thing of getting to extremes,
There was some suggestions that it does, using too much of it is bad in the sense that it will create bacteria that are resistant to antibiotics. It can help promote that, which is a bit of a concern. I've got a book at the moment, Superbugs, which is from one of the Sam Harris lectures or episodes with someone, Matt McCarthy, I think his name is, who was talking about how antibiotics, we're running out of antibiotics because bacteria is becoming
more and more resistant
to it. So, that's a humanity thing, not an individual thing. So you were wrong, I were wrong. Man. Two negatives make a positive. The mere mortals are
still winning. Right. Well, I was just going to say, I could keep calling it out because I even did more research, found shampoo. So we talked about shampoo. Yeah. Found like overwhelming evidence about the issues of not using shampoo and stuff. I found more things. I was like, got to really recall the anaerobic versus aerobic systems. And they're completely different ways that energy systems work in your body. And I'm like, man, that's why I was calling it out when we were talking about it. I was like, I know that we don't know this stuff fully. So whenever you get into conversations, I was like, no. I'm just so annoyed when people don't know about it. But even then, we don't even know that much about it.
They should see. If it's a meanderings episode, it's in white. That definitely means that there's a little bit of hesitancy of
That's true.
Validity.
That's true. Hopefully Karen is coming through
It's fine,
nice
man.
and crispy clear.
It was doing that last time as well.
Awesome. All right, now I'm going to get into my little topic that I wanted to talk about quickly because it is short. It's something I was listening to on the Tim Ferriss podcast. Let me pull up the actual little note. He was talking to, and I don't know if you know this guy, but you might, Michael Pollan. Do you know Michael Pollan? Yep. So episode 313.
I do indeed. I've heard him on...
Default Mode Network. Have you heard of this?
Yes.
Yes. So
many times.
I had not heard about the Default Mode Network.
What? That should be right up your alley, man.
Had not. So, I mean, for people who don't know, from what I took away from this, the Default Mode Network was a part of your brain that was recognized around 15 years ago. And the whole thing where if you're sitting there bored, generally your default mode network in your brain starts sparking up lots of things going around. When they did an fMRI, if you're just chilling out doing nothing, your brain's still sort of connecting and doing its own thing. Anyways, I pulled out the whole fact that using psychedelics or meditating or fasting or potentially other ways can help to quieten down that default mode network. And the theory obviously goes that, well, if you go ahead and do that, it helps you potentially connect other parts of your brain, which then sort of starts sparking up and then connecting other links which previously don't encounter. So that was a cool little, an interesting discussion between those two. And I think Tim called it out. It was one of like the most interesting conversations he'd had in many, many years, which was cool. But, and I don't know if you've heard Michael talk about this, the disillusionment of the ego is potentially connected to that as well, and the way that he saw when someone says like, "Oh, I've been involved in this really strong spirituality action, or something happened to me that's from the spirit," he more sees that as the when you sort of step away from the ego, and that's more what the behavior of people experiencing is. So, anyways, that was very interesting. I had not read about it or heard about it before. So it was very interesting.
I read about in this book, so I'm reading at the moment Why Buddhism is True by Robert Wright, and I'm pretty sure I remember reading something about exactly this default mode network. So let me jump to...
There you go.
Yeah, it's a couple of times in here. You might even be interesting for you to just check out these couple of references. But there was this one guy, Gary Weber, they were talking about who, it logged up 20,000 hours of meditation or something, and his just default was so you were saying that the default mode network sort of switched off when people were meditating. Is that correct? Or
no, it was more along the lines of that if you were a really good meditator, yes, then the default mode network would be quietened down.
Yeah, so I think that was only when you were in meditation,
not outside of it. Yes,
but this guy had, for however reason, had managed to get to such a stage that it was always
that's cool,
turned on and turned off, or whatever way that is.
Cool.
So there you go. Yeah. So speaking of Buddhism, I have had a couple of little adventures.
Yeah, it is cool. I want to hear about these learnings. Yep.
Yeah. So I did two things that are very much out of the ordinary.
Start with the eye gazing. You need to start with the eye gazing.
Yeah. So that was, if you looked at the thumbnail today, it was
staring it down,
intentionally putting a bit of intention in my eye gazing. So eye gazing is something I'd heard about probably 2 years ago from an ex-girlfriend of mine who did eye gazing, and I was describing it to people like this. It was interesting, but not something I was interested in. So I found the aspect of it kind of cool, but me personally going to it just didn't even register on the radar.
Okay.
But I was talking about it recently with Brendan, and then he just sent me this random link saying, "Oh yeah, they're actually doing eye gazing in Brisbane on this date." So I said, "Okay,
let's try it out.
I'm going to try it out." So it was 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock on a Saturday in Brisbane. So if you look that up, if you're interested in that, I believe he said they do it like once a month.
Okay.
And just rocked up. Wasn't sure what to expect. Are there going to be 100 people here? Are there going to be 2 people? It was not 100. There was 6 people there. 5 people actually when I rocked up. So no, sorry, there was 6. There was 2 pairs already doing it. Had 2 girls and then a guy and a girl, and then there was 2 guys sort of just
hovering about.
Now one of them was the coordinator, so he didn't do any of the eye gazing himself. And so I rocked up, met this guy Dante. I was like, dude, that's an awesome name. I love your name.
That's an awesome name.
Heard Kyron, of course he's going to say that's an awesome name.
Yep.
So,
But before we go through though, so you meet Dante or you meet these other people.
Yep.
Can I ask a question? Were they already good at eye gazing? Were they good at holding eye contact from the get-go?
I think everyone kind of is. It's not as... So I thought it'd be kind of uncomfortable. That was my impression. I thought I was going to go into it and I was going to have to overcome some level of discomfort looking at someone.
To do it.
Yeah. And so basically what it is you don't really get much introduction. It's just, hey, you want to do some eye gazing? Yeah, okay, cool.
Do some eye gazing.
Let's sit down. So we sat down under a tree. We were probably about this distance.
I was going to ask you, so distance, okay. So meter and a half, COVID distance.
Yep. So just sat down, cross-legged, however you want, and then you just start. And so I'll just look you in the eye, and you look me in the eyes. And I think it's now this is where it starts to get into a little bit of the... I'll talk about my experience and then what other people
walk me through. Walk me through the exact
so I sat
timeline
down,
here.
So I sat down with Dante. We'd already exchanged a couple of words. Saying like, "Is this your first time?" Yeah, this is my first time for me. He'd already been a couple of times, so he sort of knew the go, I guess.
Knew the ropes.
And it was just, we'll just stare each other in the face until
we get bored.
Yeah, either one of us says, that's enough. So we started doing it, and you just stare each other in the eyes. You're blinking, of course, so it's not a staring contest per se. And
did it feel like it was getting into a staring contest at all?
no, I don't think it was ever.
Okay.
It never felt like that. And
was there any smiles, any laughs?
Not for me, but I heard some other people having that reaction.
Okay.
One of the girls had that reaction at some point where she just broke out into like
giggles,
uncontrollable giggles. So for me, it was. The main takeaway I got from that first one was it reminded me of very much like the first time I really tried to sit down and meditate, or one of the first times I really looked at my own thoughts, which was I'm going to try and concentrate on something, and then just the barrage, the drip drop of the next thought entering my head just became really in front of your face, like really apparent when I was doing it. So it actually reminded me of very much like one of the first times I tried to meditate. In that sort of feeling sense and noticing. What went through my brain when I was doing it, I would look, I guess, at their eyes, wondering what they were thinking, trying to picture them looking at me, and then, of course, just all the normal distractions. If a boat was going by, I'd sort of hear it. I'd still be staring him in the eye, because it's pretty easy. You don't really need to divert the eye contact. You're pretty much locked in. It's pretty easy to do that, and you're blinking and whatnot, so it's not too intense. I had a little bit of trouble because I just noticed myself drifting towards looking in one eye and then looking in the other eye, not moving my head, just looking in one eye or the other, and it sort of felt. I just wondered, is he seeing that I'm staring at only one of his eyes? Should I be,
looking centrally
at the sort of bridge? And then I guess just in general, one of the main experiences I had was just a real changing of the vision. And so when I looked long enough, and for the first one, I think we probably sat down for a good 15 minutes at least, 15 to 20 minutes. And I noticed that my vision at some stages were doing very strange things to other sort of his face. So it was almost like the background blurred out.
Yes.
So imagine if you're looking at your phone, you sort of see, and you're holding your phone at arm's length, you sort of see the background blur out a little bit if you're focusing on it. That sort of happened. The eyes became very distinct, and then it was almost like his face was in focus but out of focus. And so I could sort of see him, imagine a sort of horror film or something where it's focused on maybe the red eyes of the demon popping up, and then the rest of the face goes maybe a little bit blurry, but it's sort of changing and becoming old or different bumps or something coming up.
Yep.
So that's what it was like for me. I just noticed real intense, almost rippling changes on his skin.
Ooh, okay.
And obviously that wasn't happening. My vision was.
Then again,
was
his
doing
name's
some
Dante,
change.
so you never know. You never
Dante,
know.
you fooled me. And yeah, so we did that for 15, 20 minutes. I think I was the one
partners.
who broke. I just broke it off. I was like, all right, I think that's good, man. So then I just chatted, still sitting there, just chatted with him for, I guess, maybe another 10, 15 minutes about the experience, what I felt, what he felt in it.
And what did he feel?
He was saying it was more. He was sort of like drawn to like one eye. He didn't have that, I guess, vision experience that I did.
That's interesting.
He described it more the way I would describe a normal meditation for myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had two thoughts in my mind. I was like, I thought it was going to be like, I just loathe looking at your face for 15 minutes. But the one that when you mentioned the whole that tunnel vision almost feeling, that's interesting. So I've experienced that many, many times, especially when I'm concentrating on something. I've done that when I'm working, especially if I'm looking at a particular thing in a document and I'm looking at it for a while. That almost zoning out tends to happen. And I can also do that when I'm having conversations. So when we set up the laptop and I'm having this conversation, I'm kind of looking at their face for a while. Same. All of this will just kind of blur out. Even the face will blur out, and I'm only just looking at like a very, very small focus of their face. But okay, that's interesting.
There you go. Yep.
All right. See, the thing with eye gazing, I thought it'd be really intimidating if you got really close. Because I originally was taken to you. I thought eye gazing was going to be like right here, looking into the eyeball, the iris of a human. And I think that would be whoa at first, but you might get a little bit like, oh, okay, that's cool. I like your other, what you were talking about, where you had a thought of, okay, what does that individual see, as in seeing you? I think that's an interesting way to almost kind of get you out of your own skin to really see yourself as what another human, I guess, sees you as. Yeah,
because you wouldn't really get the opportunity or the opportunity in the sense that you can concentrate on what exactly it is. Because if we're talking, that's way too much going on. You're not going to be able to concentrate.
Yep.
You're just sit still. You know what's behind you, and you know the environment, and it's just you two locked in. So that wasn't I couldn't particularly envision or see myself through that, but it was, I guess, fun putting myself in. His head. Here's
an interesting one. I just want to ask you this one. It's semi-related. And I don't know if this is just me being really weird or if it's engineering or I don't know what, but some of the times that I have done meditation, and sometimes not even that, it's just me, I'm just sitting there laying, kind of not doing anything. So it's not really by proxy of meditation, but it's just me kind of like unfocused and then focusing on something. And what I do is, so I'll give you the story, like I'm laying in bed, just laying there doing nothing. And in my mind, I will 3D diagramize me in the bedroom. So outside of myself. So imagine if I'm looking at it from like an angled perspective outside of the room, and I'll create this diagram of me in the room, laying in bed, not in a full picture colored format, but it's almost like a cutout, hologramic sort of looking field. Then I'll expand it and I'll go and in my mind, create a virtual townhouse. I'll go and create the whole thing. And then I'll start expanding it beyond into the street, the park, this house, that house. Almost as much as my mind can remember and as much detail as I can until I can't do it anymore. And then I'll stop. And then I'll just get up and go about. Now, I'll sometimes do that for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered to myself, I'm like, gee, is that something that other people do? Have you ever done it, podcasters or people out there, mere mortals out there?
Can't say I've done that.
Or if it's similar to that. I don't know if that's because my brain just goes towards that, I don't know, space visualization for any perspective. But anyways,
do you try and do it or it just happens?
It just happens. This is just me. I'll be laying down and I'll be like, start doing that for 5 minutes. That's my little daydream, I guess.
Out of body experience, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a forced out of body experience. So I don't know, but it was interesting that you mentioned that little zooming in. Okay, so that's obviously the
that's
eye gazing.
A general trend. I did that another time with another gentleman with another very interesting name. It's like
obviously not as interesting as Dante.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was Merlin, something like that.
What is going on?
You're getting like wizards
you're getting magicians and freaking Final Fantasy 13 players coming in.
It wasn't Merlin, but it was very close to that.
Dang, your name was like the most chilled out.
That's
good.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, the main dude was called Luke. So
Luke, you failed us, mate. Oh well.
unless he's shortened it because it's like.
All right. Well, how'd you go with the wizard? Is that any different?
A similar thing in that I did have that experience of the face changing and whatnot.
Yep.
He was the one who actually said before we started that it was his first time as well. And he was saying that he heard from the main guy, you should actually, one of the ways is to pick an eye and
stick to it.
Pick an eye which appeals to you more because it has something.
Ooh, okay.
And so this is, I guess, very similar experience for me in general. Did it, talked afterwards. And then afterwards, I just chatted with the guy who organized the event. And so this is where I'll get into, I guess, maybe a little bit of strange area for me. So a strange area is that you're going to get an eclectic bunch of people. There's no doubt about it. If you go into an eye gazing,
if you go into an unusual activity, you're going to find unusual people.
Yeah, exactly. And unusual in the sense that it's just something you won't encounter before.
Yeah.
If you go to those events regularly, it's just going to seem like normal people. So what was the, I guess, like stereotype, if I had to describe one? I would say it's people who have very, I guess, like problems in the sense that their mind is overly active, I think that you're just going to get naturally people who might not fit into, I suppose, like the standard way of thinking. So for example, there was a girl there who didn't shave her legs, was going the full hair route, natural, whatever that is, natural. I think Merlin, whatever his name was, had
the wizard.
I think he mentioned he had a husband. So just, I suppose people who are a little bit different in different ways. And when I spoke with Luke, that was, I suppose, the main disappointing thing I had from it, which was from the very get-go, I said, was just asking some basic questions. And he, from the very get-go, he sort of said dismissively, well, this isn't really eye gazing. This isn't how you should do it. And that made me think, okay, well, why are you organizing this then if you're doing that?
What is supposed to be a true eye gazing experience?
So he went to a full workshop where you pay $120 and you go have all these different experiences, and he was telling me about them. And this is where it also gets into a little bit of the I'm not really, I can't really jump on board with this, which was you're doing a lot of more exercises which involve freeing your inhibitions to total, like you have no inhibitions. You're just going with the moment. You're screaming, you're yelling, you're letting all that stuff out.
Yeah, I get you.
That's cool. But then he would sort to explain of how he could tell I was a inquisitive person because of, and this is what like Merlin was saying, for example, he could see that this side of my face was like, it was like I was searching in this eye, I was searching for something, and I had this deep longing, whereas on my left eye it was more of a calm, cool one. The energy was less there. And
interesting.
I just can't get on board with describing things like that with where it's so subjective. If you got 5 people and asked, okay, what's in this eye and what's in this eye, you're not going to get the same thing. So that's sort of where it got into that area. I'm a bit standoffish, to be honest.
I just like my mind was going to what Luke was saying, that he went to that event where you can kind of just go and do whatever, scream and cry or shout, or I could imagine just even in my mind when he would be talking that for me saying like, oh, okay, like could I just pick you up and just throw you around or something?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's not exactly that. He was talking about how it has structure and you do these.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Okay, learnings. What did you learn from it?
So learnings, I think I was glad to go. It was it was fun again. Nice people, totally cool people. Enjoyed chatting the conversations I did have with them. I think as far as finding a tribe, though, one of the reasons I probably won't go back to it is they're not my people.
Yep.
They're nice people, nothing wrong with them, but they're probably not the sort of, no one captured my attention in the sense of, man, I really want to hang out with this guy. Unlike the calisthenic bars where I'll regularly meet people who I go,
yes,
yeah, I have a Brendan, if you've seen any of the convos I have with him, awesome dude. I love chatting with him, super fun. Every convo that I have on the podcast with him it's like that in real life. So I just have lots of laughs with him, lots of shared connections, whatever it is. I enjoy that. So, yeah.
That's an
interesting event, but probably not my tribe.
That's an interesting one you bring up, just a tribe bit, because it was something I was thinking about. I was trying to, whether I put it as a mere mortal moment or I was going to talk about it, and it's the whole, where people say, you are the average of the 5 people that hang around. Mm-hmm. That's sure. Everyone knows about that or has heard about it. Maybe it's a little bit harder to apply though, because you start thinking, well, who are my 5? Is it my dad? Is it your friend? Is it your boyfriend, your girlfriend? Who knows? Who cares? So I actually think it's more, there's some truth to it. It's just hard to pin down. But I think what you're saying, I think if you can look at the 2 tribes that you hang around with the most in your life, that is what's going to almost define you. And because that tribe could be really big or really small, but I believe that I think the tribe's character and intent kind of has a bigger power to you than even the individuals might have. Because if you have, generally as well, the 5 individuals are also generally in the same sort of tribe or belong to 1 or 2 tribes. So that might be, say, a family tribe and a friend tribe, or you could say a friend tribe and family tribe and maybe 1 more tribe that's the calisthenics. So, just had me thinking about that. That's also been on my mind.
Or potentially something, it should maybe be modified to the people you voluntarily hang around with, for example. So I love my mom, and she's definitely in the top 5 people I spend the most time with, but I wouldn't say huge parts of her personality are what define me either. My dad, a lot more, but my mom, probably not.
Yeah,
and so
I think there's a better articulation to that particular saying that can be found.
It's a good saying, but I would agree that it sort of lacks a little something, because it does make you think, oh, well, who are the 5? And it's the 5 don't come to mind really readily either.
Yeah. Okay, so that's obviously the first bit, eye gazing. Good.
So that was the first one. So 1 month ago,
ticked,
done. The other was why I mentioned Buddhism. I went to a Buddhist meditation. I was going to say info session, but it wasn't really that much about info. It was sort of a meditation.
Straight into the meditation. Okay, again, run me through the timeline.
Yep.
Where was it? What happened?
Once again, just found this place, Googling, wanted to do it in person, not interested in doing online ones. And very close to here, so just rocked up, and you give a donation to go in. And so it's a very small temple. It's on a main road, and it's, I guess, one largish single-story building at the front with a, I guess, little chamber to enter in, a big room, probably about the size of 2 classrooms, perhaps, and with a little altar and shrine up on the top end, where the main Buddha, the statues and whatnot are, but also where the main person who is speaking will sort of sit on a slightly raised platform. Okay. I went in there, once again, same thing, just absolutely lovely people. Interactions from the very get-go were awesome. I got a Lindt chocolate upon leaving. If you give me chocolate, I'm going to love you as a person.
Very nice.
So there was a couple of people there, Bryce, Helen, and I'm just going to butcher the name. It was something
Merlin,
like...
another wizard.
No, this was one of the nuns, the Buddhist nuns. So
There's Buddhist nuns?
There is.
What? Yep. I never knew this. I thought you just called them Buddhist, like just Buddhist as well. No, fantastic.
So she was, I guess, part of a couple of them.
Okay.
I'm going to say Ling Te, something like that.
Okay. It's very Ling Te.
Yeah, I'm much butchered. Very apologize for that. And so I was actually one of the first ones there, and they sort of we just had a general chat about all sorts of things. Like,
roughly how many people were there?
In total, they had space for 22, but I think probably about 10 showed up.
Okay.
And so you walk in, take off your shoes, and this is a very informal one. So when we were in Japan, we went to some... Well, these would have been Zen Buddhism. This was of the Mahayana tradition of Buddhism.
Japan ones were the walk in, walk out.
They were grandiose and very... this was sort of like an invite-only thing. You had to be going there or have a reason to be going there. Okay,
so Japan ones were like showboating. This one was a VIP entry. All right, cool. Good.
I would say the Japan ones were perhaps more traditional. This one... Okay. The nun, she had beads on her hand. And then I also saw she had a Fitbit or something of the same kind. There was when she was pulling out her stuff, she pulled out her phone to make sure it was on silent. So it's not, it's a nun living in the world.
Yeah. Okay. But fair enough. Yep.
Yeah. No. Not
Oh, like yeah, okay. I get what the perspective of the style of it. Okay, so cool.
Yeah.
So you get in, shoes off.
A modern one. It's, they had aircon, for example, in the building. They had proper lighting and distancing.
Oh, they've got aircon. I'd be there.
Yeah,
Easy.
Yeah.
All right, so
you should have been there.
You've taken the shoes off. You've sat down.
So they had a couple of ones where you could sort of sit on a cushion at the front, and then the rest were almost like high school chairs, spread out, social distancing and whatnot. It went for an hour and a half. Pretty standard stuff. She talked a little bit at the start about the, I guess, like general Buddhist tradition and a little bit about meditation in general. So I was talking why you would do meditation, because I'm guessing you would potentially have first-time meditators there.
Yeah.
So a little bit about what meditation does, what it does for her personally, and I suppose some of the, all fairly standard stuff. Get into a guided meditation right at the start where it was focused on your breath. Potentially, if a thought comes up, you can look into that. If you find yourself getting attached to it, or it's bringing up emotions and your emotions are attaching to it, go back to your breath. And that went for about 15 minutes, and she had the little ding, and she'd do that once every 3 minutes to just bring you back.
Okay.
After that, another bit more of a talk about, I suppose, in particular, their brand of Tibetan Buddhism.
Yeah, okay.
So in particular, their Rinpoche, whatever his name is, Rinpoche, which sort of means their leader in essence, or their esteemed teacher, something like that.
Okay.
And so they had a couple of photos of him up on the shrines as well, which I found interesting.
Which they do that at all Buddhist temples. They have like their general leader. Because I've been to a couple of them, and they all do that.
Most of them. I'd say most of them.
Yep.
Yeah. She was saying at the end how some people go away from that tradition. But most of them tend to do that.
Yep.
And then we went through a couple of different ones. So in the same moment. So it had a chant to it.
Yep.
And
would they call it the incantation?
Because they were doing spells. Dante was there as well.
Dante was there. I think they do call it the incantation. It has to end with that. But
perhaps they call it that.
Yep. Anyways, the chanting.
Yep.
Yes.
So can I remember it? No, I can't. I'd get it wrong. And you'd sort of say that, you'd keep it in your mind, but it was also mixed with a visualization thing. So she was talking about how one of the Buddhas, because there's multiple, so not the main guy, but the one with
Maharaji or whatever.
Yep. That's the one. So
I only know this because of all the bloody Joseph Campbell I'm reading right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So much of it
Excellent.
in there. Yes. Yep.
So you're meant to imagine him in front of you, sort of in a golden throne, bathed in light, and then he's, light's exuding from him. It's coming into you. It's filling you with compassion. You feel compassion for all these different people in your life, and it starts off. So it sort of was. It was almost like 3 different types of meditation, from what I can tell. There was the chant, the mantra type. There was a visualization type, which is typically along the lines of you feel a blinding light, a soft, beautiful, enhancing light entering into your body. It's filling up your body. So I guess like a feeling type one, and then a visualization, which is combined with visualization, and then metta.
Also, the visualization and the feeling one sort of combined.
Yep. And then there's the metta, which is the compassion one. So it's feeling compassion to your family, feeling compassion to a stranger, feeling compassion to your enemies. That sort of regression. So it was a bunch of them all mixed up together. That one went for, I'd say, probably about 45 minutes, I guess. And I struggled a bit in that one, to be honest. The first one, I did okay. I know roughly how to meditate. That one, though, I probably about 20 minutes in, my mind just started going everywhere. And I started getting a little bit shiftless, a little bit restless. I managed to sort of feel my way through that for a while, but right towards the end, I just had to move position, open my eyes, do something a little bit different. Because
That's interesting.
I just reached a point. We've heard previously a long time ago about how I couldn't even lie on a bed for an hour. So how that was very, very difficult. So imagine doing that by sitting up as well. Wow.
Dang, wow.
Yeah.
You would have reached nirvana if you did it, pretty much. Yeah, if you had done that a whole hour, mate, you would already be in nirvana. Okay.
At the end, she talked a little bit more. Then at the end, they had a simple prayer, which you read out as well.
Just quickly, on all those chants or prayers, were they Sanskrit or were they...
Yes, yeah. So it was...
Well, okay, no. Were they Sanskrit and they were actual words or they were meaningless words?
No, they had meaning. So I asked her afterwards, you think... I could not imagine trying to learn this language because each word had, no joking, the equivalent of 2 paragraphs of English writing.
They do. It's crazy. It is crazy.
To describe it.
That's when they say when you can't translate Sanskrit correctly, it's because to translate a page of Sanskrit is like an entire book.
Yeah.
So when they say, this word in Sanskrit means this humongous thing, it's what the hell?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, so I sort of session finished up. I guess some people who are regulars grabbed their belongings and left. I hung around. I chatted with the leader of that session, just asking her those general questions and just having a general chat with her. She's a really nice lady. Went to their little reception afterwards where they have
chocolates,
bookstore. I got the chocolate on the way out. Lindt chocolate. Thank you. It's been blessed apparently because. So they had
when you eat the Lindt, the light will explode in your belly.
They had the main nun, and then Helene was, I guess, one of the volunteers. They were all volunteers actually, and Helene would sort of give the layman's introduction, I would say. So has no pretense of being holier than thou, of being a religious, really diving into it. So she was, cracking jokes about how you turn your phones off silence unless you're expecting a call from the Buddha during the session.
So she was a bit of a crack up. Okay, cool.
And so she was saying, the Lindts have been blessed because we left them out for the Buddha. He didn't want to eat them, so they've been blessed now, and now they've been going to funny stuff like that. Yeah. So learnings from that in general. Once again, I would say lovely people. I love going there, interacting with them. Probably not my crowd as well. There was a couple of times where she was making some claims as well, which for me bordered on the side of not making sense or being just too undefined as to be helpful. What I really like about when Sam Harris explains Buddhism is that it does have that sort of scientific tilt to it. So he's very careful with his words, and even the words which he uses, which the Buddhists use, he uses them in a way which makes it understandable. So large parts of what she was talking about, just, whatever that detector is in my brain that says, this doesn't make sense. This is why, how does that make sense? How does that...
I was getting triggered a couple of times.
How is that verifiable in the world? Things like that. That pinged a couple of times, but for the most part, I think it's good. It was a good meditation session. Once again, good to just go and see, oh, wow, I don't have control of this thing, this brain. This is all over the place.
Well, getting back, obviously. So, again, that's another goal ticked, which is nice as well.
Yeah. So I would potentially do that again, but I'd maybe want to try it in a more traditional context, for example. I think I would probably have more problems, to be honest, because they gave me, the layman's version. The more traditional one would have, I'm guessing, more of the dogmas attached to it, more of the claims. So she was talking about reincarnation, for example, and I just don't believe in that. I don't.
Karen's going to get turned into a toad.
Yeah. What was it that you wanted to be? You wanted to be like a toad, a hairless, hairy toad or something.
Hairy toad, yeah.
So potentially. So I'd like to experience maybe a traditional one, more traditional one, but I also think I would probably like it less. So that might be something for
this is a weird one for you because it doesn't match with who I am in a lot of other places. But for some weird reason, I have been to a lot of temples in my life, like a lot of temples. Like almost every country I've been to some sort of temple, maybe multiple times.
Yeah.
And weirdly, when I go to the temples, it's not that I'm sitting down and meditating, nor am I going through a 1 hour session or something, but I've very often found myself being in them for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, just walking around on my own and kind of losing myself in thoughts, but not in thought that I'm like running wild and thinking of other things, but really focusing on the moment. Or again, it's not intentional. It's just as I'm going through it, just kind of my thoughts float away and I'm not really thinking about anything. So I wouldn't call it meditation.
That's not
it's not intentional.
It's a different state, yeah.
But it was very, very interesting. So I do enjoy doing that. And I don't know if I've shared this one with you, just as a short one, but when I was in Thailand, and it was in Bangkok or Phuket, one of them, who cares? And it was called the Ivory Temple. And we had to wait 40 minutes to get in, and you had to, if you're a female, you had to, wrap up, and for the guys, you had to pay, sure, whatever. And I thought, we had to wait for such a long time to get into this one. But when we get in, I swear to you, no joke, that this place was like a lot of marble everywhere. It was really, really pretty cool. We were walking around. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. But what's the big draw card about this place? Why was there so many people coming in? And they only let very few people in at one time. We went to the main area. Sure, it's cool. You can sit down. You can give stuff to Buddha, whatever. Okay, fine. But then you walk around the corner and they have this courtyard. And this courtyard is the best way I can, I guess if you know Dragon Ball, you might know this, but I'll try to describe it. So the Dragon Ball tournament, where it's like the platform and the grass
platform in the middle.
Yeah. Exactly that. So it was exactly that with a little bit of a like stairs on the side, so it's almost like people could sit up and watch it. But it's a big square, 20 by 20 meters, like it's huge, all just like brilliant white ceramic. And you just walk on it. And when you get to the middle, because the walls and the sort of seating around it is, I'd say, 30 meters high, you're enveloped in like, you can't hear anything. And I was just walking, you can hear like my little steps, but it's like steps on like ceramic. So it was like, click, click.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. I just felt in my moment, I was like, I'm ready to be in a martial arts tournament right now. Hit me up. So that was I would meditate in that spot.
Yeah.
That was one time in my life that I was like, I would sit here and come and meditate. Yeah. This is really, really damn cool.
Yeah. Say whatever you want about religion. Some of the buildings and the things they've managed to create are just absolutely
it just recalls the temples in Japan. Like imagine that huge fuck off one in Kyoto. Man, just go to it. Like I don't care if you're religious, if you care about it, just the spectacle of being there is amazing.
The churches that are in Europe as well. I've never been, but I intend to. I went to one of my real intense visions, memories of Chile was when I arrived and I went to the church that's on the main plaza there. And wow. Just absolutely
even crazier. So in Taiwan, in Taipei City, there is a huge torii gate. I think it's 40 meters high and 60 meters wide, something like that. You walk through and it's the Taipei Square, and this square is 2.5 kilometers long, nothing. And at the very center of it, there's a huge monument, like a massive, massive monument. You can go in there and just have a lot of like prayers and people sort of standing around in this big square thing. But on either side of this huge 2.5K stretch is this two massive temples, which are bigger than the ones in Japan, like much bigger than those. I don't think you could get inside. But yeah, again, I was just like,
blown away.
Wow, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Anyways.
The other thing I forgot to mention was I came to some, I suppose, greater clarity of what meditation styles work for me. Visualization is not my strong suit. I really can't, when I close my eyes, picture something in front of me and things happening. That doesn't work for me. Same with the metta. I've already talked about this. Feeling compassion for others doesn't particularly work. The mantras, though, that I did feel...
Mantras are pretty good.
Yeah, I felt myself becoming a lot more focused and my state... I don't want to say improving, but there was definitely a noticeable difference between before and after the mantras.
Yeah.
And
well, look...
Not only saying it out loud, but also repeating it in my head.
Yeah, the saying out loud and repeating it in your head, I think is it. Look, I'm when it comes to meditation, I am the bacteria that's on a tadpole when it comes to the journey of meditation. But I think for me, it's the mantras, the saying out loud, and also visualizations for me. I think those are two. If I had to really keep on going, those are going to be the ones. But yeah, agree with the mantra.
Yeah,
So-
nice. So that was my little adventures for this weekend. I
Good,
don't
good.
think I'll have anything, maybe something a little bit interesting in the next couple of weeks, but
Maybe.
those were
Those are good. I enjoyed
something
listening to those.
a little bit different.
All right, folks, me Immortals. We've been going on for a little while. So this has been our little musings of the weekend that was, or the week that was. Now, of course, if you want to come and chant with us, come and listen in. Come and listen to all the various shows, the content, YouTube, Instagram, wherever it may be. If you think someone might enjoy this particular podcast, if you listen to, share it with them. Ask them. Tell them. Come on, go listen in. They talk some crap, but sometimes they talk some pretty interesting stuff. If you've never heard about eye gazing, share it with someone else as well.
Yep.
I think most people haven't heard or maybe gone to eye gazing events, so they might benefit from knowing what it actually is.
Yeah, a couple of my Buddhist friends, my recent Buddhist friends, said they might check out. So if they've listened to this episode, thank you very much.
And sorry for butchering your names.
I enjoyed the whole experience as a whole, and you're lovely people.
Very good. All right, me Immortals. One out.
Karen out.